I think this is a good point to introduce as an example, the liar's paradox. What is the liar's paradox? Why is it a good example of paraconsistent logic?
Well, it's an example of dialetheism. And as we've said, if you're reasoning about dialethia, a dialethia is a neologism. It just means a true contradiction. Dialetheism is the view that there are some dialethias, right? And if you tell a philosopher some contradictions are true, the next question, the next statement is likely to be, you're crazy. But the next question is likely to be, what? Give me some examples. Okay.
Yeah.
There are several putative examples, but the ones that have got the most airtime in the philosophical literature in the last 50 years have been the paradox of self-reference. And now the liar paradox is a paradigm example of a paradox of self-reference, but there are many more. And perhaps we'll come back to that later, but let's stick with the liar paradox for a moment. So the liar paradox, we believe, was invented by an ancient Greek philosopher called Eubulides, about the 5th century BCE. And it goes like this. Okay. We're in New York. Is that true? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The solar system has only 3 planets. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's false. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you the same question about what I'm going to say next. So listen carefully. This sentence is not true. Is that true?
There's a contradiction there.
Yeah. Okay. So you know what's coming. Okay. So the sentence is, this sentence is not true. Well, if it's true, well, it says it's not true. So if it's true, it's not true.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, I guess it must be not true. Hey, but it says it's not true. So it's true. So if it's true, it's not true. If it's not true, it's true. And so it looks as though, if it's either true or not true, it's both true or not true. There's your dialethia.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the liar paradox. That's why dialetheists like it. It sounds like a logician's party game, something you can amuse your friends with while the canapes come out. Okay. And if you left the story like that, you could be forgiven for thinking so. But in fact, we know that it's one of a large number of paradoxes in that family which appeared in the development of modern logic around the turn of the 20th century. And so this is not a logician's party game. Really, reasoning of this kind is embedded in mathematical reasoning, or at least what people thought was mathematical reasoning, until a paradox of this kind was discovered or invented by Bertrand Russell, who was one of the inventors of classical logic. It's now called Russell's paradox. We can talk about that if you want, but for present purposes, just take my word that it's in the same family as the liar.
Yep.
So how you handle paradox of this kind has, to be fair, driven so much of the development in logic in the last 100 years. In fact, the liar paradox has been discussed in all the great periods of logic, ancient Greek logic, Arabic and Latin logic, and modern logic, contemporary logic, the last 100 years, because it threatens our very views about what truth is. Because if you suppose that no contradictions can be true, you've got one that appears to be true staring in the face. What do you say about it? This tends to challenge our views about the nature of truth. So you can understand why philosophers got really worried about this. And it must be said that because people tended to endorse the law of non-contradiction, they thought there must be something wrong with the argument. Something's got to go wrong somewhere. And the suggestions to that effect have been very, very sophisticated, both in the medieval period and in the modern period. But even 2,500 years after the paradox was discovered, we don't know the solution. At least if consensus is required for knowledge, because there's still no agreement about how the best way to solve the paradox is. But dialetheists have come along and said, look, you've been barking up the wrong tree, as the English say. You've been trying to explain what's wrong with the argument. There's nothing wrong with the argument. It's what it is, what it appears to be, a veridical argument. It establishes the contradiction. End of story. Well, it's not the end of the story, because then you say, well, okay, but then, if that's right, you can't use classical logic, so what do we do? Okay, So that's, where the story goes next. But your question was, what might be an example of a dialetheia? That one, and it's kind of deeply entrenched in the history of logic and philosophy.